Joining us now in the studio is the former ambassador to Mexico, Yoses Livne, to give us his input on the U.S.-Mexico-Israel drama. Thanks so much for coming in, Ambassador.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with a big question on everybody's mind. Was it a wise move for Netanyahu to show his support for Trump's plans to build this wall?
I think the issue that concerns us is to what degree are there any similarities between the situation on the Mexican-U.S. border versus the southern border of Israel? And there's none. There's no similarity. The issue that we faced over the last, 10, 15 years was a question of people coming in, but specifically the threat of terrorism. We all know what's happening in the Sinai with Daesh and the Egyptians trying to come to terms or to fight and vanquish those terrorist groups in the Sinai. And there are all kinds of elements that go into play there. It's a different situation over the Mexican-U.S. border. And I don't think that by making statements, we were helping anyone. I think that we should stay away. We should not be involved in something that really has nothing to do with us.
Now, what types of effects could this tweet have on the Mexican Jewish community? Because we're hearing reports of people fearing backlash and increasing anti-Semitism as a result of this tweet. And even comments we're seeing in newspapers that are anti-Semitic towards the Jewish community because of this tweet.
Look, the Jewish community, of course, would have loved if no such statement was made, because they find themselves in a very difficult situation. And I looked up at least one newspaper in Mexico in which I saw that the official position of the Jewish community is to open a distance, is to distance themselves from that statement. I don't know that it will bring, an outbreak of anti-Semitic events. Yes, there are newspapers in Mexico that tend to be radical in their coverage of Israeli affairs and would take some really despicable positions and descriptions. On the whole, I don't think that it will bring open anti-Semitism. Is there
could we see an effect on? Well, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, but is there anti-Semitism in Mexico? Probably no more than in other places. And but again, it is something that puts people in a very difficult situation, something they certainly did not want to be in.
Which I think leads to a much broader question. Having served as the Israeli ambassador to several different countries, El Salvador, New Zealand, also Mexico, what kind of an effect have you seen the words of former prime ministers of Netanyahu have on Jewish communities in these countries? I mean, are Jews always tied to Israeli policy and Israeli statements? Is that something that you consistently see happening?
Jews all over the world, or in most cases, support Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people. There is a very strong solidarity, connection between Jewish communities around the world and the state of Israel. Does that mean that they will support every single policy that Israel adopts? Or will they support every statement made by any Israeli politician? I mean, prime ministers or senior ministers? Not necessarily. They will not go publicly so far as to say, oh, he doesn't represent us, or she, They will find a way to open a distance if they find certain statements that they disagree with. If it affects their well-being, if it affects the country where they live, they will find a way of expressing,
But I guess it's just interesting that the Jewish communities would even have to speak to what Israel is choosing to do, right?
No, it's not a question whether they will speak. It's they will react if somebody asks them.
Right.
You see, in many places, people think that, especially in Latin America, you have to take into consideration that many people confuse. They use the word Israelitas both as something for Jews and for Israelis.
Exactly.
And I remember many times I used to say, not all Israelis are Israelites, and not all Israelites are Israelis. And because there are many Israelis who are not Jews, and there are a lot of Jews who are not Israelis.
Thank you so much for coming in, Ambassador.
Thank you.